Do you know, I just noticed in that video I did before, you'll notice I've got my little, I'm having wardrobe malfunctions all over the place this morning. I didn't realise that I had my balls out. I can guarantee you, I'll have to show you in a mirror. I'll show you in a mirror right now. I used to sell mirrors before I was accused of things. If you look in the mirror there, notice, can you see, there, how the bottom, like quarter or third, I don't exactly know, of my screen is broken because the glass is broken there and then the screen bloody stopped working. Oh, I forgot my hat as well. And I didn't realise, and I'm in such a hurry this morning, I didn't realise that my balls were just sticking out because of my kilt. My testicles were just on complete display, so I had to put that little fist emoji sticker on the next video that you haven't seen yet, or maybe you have seen. I've got a lot of videos to do this morning, and unlike all of our politicians, I don't have a big liturgy of little university graduates to boss around. It's just little old me here. It's just little old me, and because the bottom of my screen's broken, I didn't realise my testicles were just fucking on full display. And thank my lucky stars that I didn't just post that onto the internet, otherwise I might have been censored for showing my genitalia all over the internet like a little hussy, and that would have destroyed my entire reputation. And I've been pretty good, except for the odd slip out of the nip or something, but I think male nipples are a little bit different than female nipples, apparently, according to society. And so I am just so grateful that I happened to just notice, like as I was editing, as the screen hopped up, I went, oh, there's your little nuts there, the ones that you got sterilised so you could put all your energy and effort into the 3 wonderful children you already had, rather than spreading your seed all around the country like a reckless kind of farmer. I concentrate on the ones I already have, and so although they're not effective, they were quite large and quite on display underneath my little skirt or kilt or whatever you'd like to call it. And yeah, but anyway, I've got one more video to do this morning, and then I can go and do some housework. I made a little bit of a mess yesterday. I cooked up a nice little mulberry roast beef. I used oats and pepper and coriander and kind of just cooked them. It was actually wonderful. It wasn't quite as nice when we reheated it, as sometimes happens. But when I sat there and ate it, I just sliced off nice little bits. I was telling my girlfriend, it was a bit of a combination, a bit of a fusion between like American barbecue, traditional English roast beef, and kind of with a bit of an Asian twist with the coriander and the mulberries, almost like a kind of plum alternative. The very ripe mulberries off the tree have a very deep flavour that's almost wine-like, obviously without all the domestic violence and self-destruction that comes with the alcohol equivalent. So if you are having trouble with the old spirits, maybe you should try planting a mulberry tree and waiting for the very ripe mulberries, and it gives you a little bit of an equivalent, a little bit like the nicotine gum satisfies that nicotine urge without all the yucky chemicals from the cigarette smoking or the vaping. Very similar. The mulberries fresh off the tree, if you let them just get very ripe, they give you a little bit of the same feeling that I think you all feel when you drink wine. But what I wanted to talk about today in this video, in this third video that I'm doing this morning, as my mum's phoning. Isn't that funny that my mum's phoning? I can't answer now, Mum. I'm working, Mummy. You're gonna have to phone one of your boyfriends. Mum's got lots of boyfriends. She always has done. She's a bit of a polygamist, a bit of a bigamist. I think that's what it's called. Now, I share a little bit of that. I've often been fond of one too many women at a time. But being that I've never been married, there she is again. She's very persistent this morning. being that I've never been married, it's not actually considered adultery, and I've been trying to balance this and figure it out, and be a father, dedicated father as well, and actually caring for their mother as kind of like a sister. We're not actually sisters, but the conditions that led us to be living together in her mother's family was the fact that I got kicked out of my mum's house, and then her mother took me in like a lost little boy and put us in the same room. And because we weren't related, that led to some fornication and also led to some children down the line. And so it's a bit of an awkward story to talk about, but in Australia, sometimes things like that happen when you leave, teenagers in a room together. Sometimes kids will be, but as I consider her my sister, I've always tried to look after her. But the sibling rivalry of late has gotten very out of hand, and she's used a whole bunch of naughty things, kind of egged on, I think, by her demanding, controlling new husband, who kind of pictures me rather than a friendly relative, more like a competitive, territorial threat. And that just seems crazy, considering that my children live in your house. Just seems like a silly bit of jealousy that you really need to speak to someone about all that jealousy. Jealousy causes a lot of trouble in the world. And what I wanted to talk about is marriage. So I currently have a girlfriend that I love very much, and because of weird circumstances, I still have kind of like another girlfriend in my mind from the past, where we kind of had to like shoulder this threat together. And I don't know what her thoughts are about the whole thing, but just out of curiosity, I did look up and I was like, are you allowed to have 2 wives in Australia? And you're not. It's called polygamy. It's illegal, and that's what all the Mormons about. I've actually got like a Mormon Bible here. I'm not a Mormon, but I think they just dropped it into my mum. And it's actually leaning on the Ned Kelly book here for some reason. I don't know why mum does these things. She stacks the books in a weird way. She's kind of stacked it like that. She's like, I don't know whether Ned was a Mormon. I know he was Irish, and I know that Irish anti-heroes in Australia are usually celebrated. And so, oh, look at that. That's that bloke. Irish they're celebrated in Australia. So I'm not really concerned about the reputation of my children's mother, considering that she's Irish. I think the Irish Republican Army and the people of Ireland will celebrate her, despite her using hideous tactics and trying to dispatch her non-actually blood-related brother that she had children with. It's kind of like it's a real such is life kind of situation. Does it say such is life? No, but hang on. I've read that somewhere else. There's a book here that says such is life. Where is it? You'll have to excuse me. Such is life. Where the fuck is it? I saw it here somewhere. Such is life. There it is. I knew it was here. Like that says such is life. And I haven't prearranged this. It's just on the shelf. Joseph Fury, Tom Collins, told his publisher's book had a temper that was democratic and a bias that was offensively Australian. 2 years later, in 1899, the same publisher rightly recognised it as a classic of our country. Now, such is life, that's what Ned said, and that's what this book's called, and that's what's written across Ben Cousins' beautifully muscular chest. And I think Ben spent a bit of time in Hakea prison as well. I remember speaking to some inmates there who were quite chummy with him, and we actually discussed how he felt quite uncomfortable on camera, and I actually gave that individual a little tip to give to Ben, to say, look, Ben, just trust in your own personhood and just be yourself. Stop trying to play the fool and get in with the cool kids, because that's what got you into all that fucking methamphetamine trouble. And you're actually a beautiful individual, and if you hadn't have been, adopted by the wrong family, you'd probably be all right. And that influence by negative aspects of our West Australian community took the Prince of Perth and turned him into the Prince of Meth. And then luckily he's on good foot again. And the tattoo says it all. Such is life, isn't it? Such is life. So I'm not really concerned about the darker side of my children's mother being, used to destroy her reputation, because I believe in the underworld and the Irish Republican Army being very high up in the underworld. I believe that will only bolster her reputation as a fearsome warrior queen. I put her on the same level as someone like Boudicca or Boudicca, whatever her name is, Joan of Arc. And I believe in the mythology of the Irish people, someone like her would be elevated to such thing. And that's probably what gave me the eyes for her all those years ago when she wandered into my father's house. And I went, I'll have her. She looks like she could fucking take on a whole army. And I think I was right. So there's no hard feelings, and everyone really gets out on top. She gets a brand new underworld reputation that spans across the entire globe, akin to Ned Kelly. And I get the finally retribution for just being just an innocent little, I'm quite mild-mannered, quite polite and quite old school, really. I haven't got a lot of that naughty underworld thing going on. I know I've had those things looked at me, but it's really just it's a misunderstanding, and it's been mischaracterized by everyone. And the facts are just there, really. I've never committed a crime, ever, not except for drink driving, and that was 100% my fault. And that was drinking. So drinking caused me a lot of distress. And I think drinking causes the whole country a whole lot of distress, and that's why I'm quite a big advocate for responsible drinking. And in fact, as a funny coincidence, our national policy and program to inform people and educate people on the dangers of alcohol is actually called Drink Wise. And I just think that's a bit of a weird coincidence, because it's pretty aligned with my philosophy that people need to get a hold of their alcohol usage, whether they're Ned Kelly or not, And so anyway, based on this polygamy thing, because I was just curious, I was wondering, I was like, well, maybe that's a solution. But no, it turns out it's completely illegal. But anyway, what I wanted to kind of delve into was the government being a corporation on Australian soil, established on the blessing of the Crown, and established to kind of reside over and provide a healthy environment for the Australian people. I believe it has almost slipped into a little bit of the old extreme Mormonism, and is actually participating and enacting polygamy across our nation by supporting women to leave their existing partners or their husbands under their care, and then kind of indoctrinating out their children as if they were their spouse, and participating in contractual law and assisting them with retaliation against their ex-partners. This is all very husband-like. This is all basically fits into the exact description of what a husband would do. So I believe that our federal government, our state governments, are actually committing polygamy, and the legal term for that being bigamy, in front of our very eyes. And they're very, very greedy, these Albos and these Roger Cooks. They're the largest pimps slash, I know some Middle Eastern princes and things like that like to have a large harem around, but the Australian and the Australian federal government and the state government's really putting them to shame. It's making them look like they're just got like a little entourage, like a little rock star entourage of groupies or something, compared to like mass swathes of the Australian citizenry, mass swathes of women that have been kind of officially wed to the Australian government, and then hand in hand retaliating against their ex-partners, sometimes which are the biological parent of their children, and then trying to indoctrinate the children against their parents. This is all very spouse-like. Very unlike say what King Charles does. King Charles didn't come and visit any of my girlfriends to claim ownership of them or something like that. He does a Christmas message and does some other things. And this archaic practice that was kind of used against, like there was all these accusations labelled against the crown all those years and years and years, like hundreds of years ago, that kind of elevated the politicians. It seems like the politicians have kind of created a structure that is mirroring kind of like a conquering warlord with like Genghis Khan-esque things, and thinking that because it's a structure and that it's not recognised as a person, although legally actually is recognised as a person. So you'll find that the federal government and all the state governments that reside underneath it are all in absolute breach of our laws against bigamy. And I'd love any court of the land, especially the supremiest of courts, you know, the everything on the plate meat lovers edition. It's like, that's what a supreme pizza is, and so like the Supreme Court. I think they'd agree. Especially when we get down to like religious beliefs, that's very commonly in patriarchal tyrannies, is in marriages, is very often a very important thing that's kind of dished out by the demanding, controlling husband in these kind of archaic desert style arrangements. And so the religion of this pseudo-scientific pharmaceutical medical rollout was a display of this entity, this federal government and the state governments, forcible communion with a newly created religious cult. And that really tips it over the line and it really exposes the depths of this bigamous strategy by these non-human entities that are legally considered as an identity. When they change this, it's allowed them to do all kinds of things. And luckily so, because it also enables them to come under the full effect of our laws, including the law against bigamy. So on my search to find out whether I could have 2 wives, it doesn't say anything about having 2 girlfriends or boyfriends, Mum. Okay? Yeah, and you're not married now, so you can do whatever you like with as many men as you like, all right? And nobody should be judging you or telling you any of these things, because you can do whatever you want. You're not married now. You've freed yourself from all the marriages, all 4 of them or 3 of them, or how many there have been. And despite previous transgressions against your vows, which I would pretty much wheel out to use as the example to why I've done that other video about all those things, now that you're freed from those vows and freed from the commitment of holding the wise estate in trust, you're free to have a boyfriend, have a Jeeves type character that mows your lawn and does whatever you want, and then also float around with all his friends and all your ex-friends and all your little friends that you've got. So lucky, that's great, Mum. That's wonderful. And it seems like as long as I don't get married, legally I could be able to do the same thing. Although it's, you know, I'm very, as I said, I'm traditional. So I'm just putting a little bit of thought into the concept of marriage and making sure that it's aligned with my values and making sure that I can fully commit to those vows before jumping into the deep end and getting all wet with them. Once you're in there, once you've made the vows under God and in the eyes of the law, you're in there. But I've never made the leap. Always a little bit of cold feet, a little bit of a whisper in my ear saying, "Hey, maybe don't do that." Maybe the fact that she's very, you know, she seems very demandant on this pseudo-scientific new kid on the block pharmaceutical religion, and that's not really, I don't want to be married into some type of extremist religion. It's not. I've spent a lot of time, my people, my family, my everything has spent a lot of time trying to protect ourselves against extreme religions while still celebrating the core concepts of those religions. But when they get extreme, well, that's why we ended up in Tasmania. We were like, we want to be, you know, we want to follow God's work, but we don't want to be forced into into communion with any religious ideal, especially a new coming psychiatric/pharmaceutical extreme religion that our government has decided is its religion of choice, or our current government standing in there, and has then enacted bigamy with thousands and 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 thousands of women in the country and their children. And so I don't know whether any of this makes sense. I don't know whether any of it can hold up in a court of law, but I would be very, very keen to hear some sufficient arguments against this, especially with the billions of dollars being spent to terrorise women into leaving their partners, you know, and to indoctrinate them into this religion. It's a nasty business. It's a really nasty business. You'll notice that religious leaders, like priests, they wear the black with the little white, you know, and cult leaders often wear like garbs and gowns and things, and that's what doctors have gotten into. They've gotten into all that iconography of a false religion, which is actually in here. I'll just turn to a random page. Wouldn't it be funny if I found that little bit about the iconography and the false idols and things like that? But I won't, probably. The broken jar. It's always the broken jar. The Lord told me to go out and buy a clay jar. That's exactly what I said. I'm going to go to another page because I've already talked about the broken jar before. So I'm going to go here. I saw a hand reaching out towards me. It's Ezekiel 2:3. You will tell them whatever I tell you to say, whether they listen or not. Remember what rebels they are. Yes, they are rebels. They've gone and created all this false medical god and religion, and then tried to like Sikhs or something, like, you know, like Arab bloody princes in the Emirates or something. They're trying to, and they're all, you know, you've got lions and tigers and lots of wives, and they smoke out of those hookers and things like that, and they do all that stuff that, well, I don't think we really need to get involved in here. But if the government is acting as in this hypocritical way by committing bigamy, well, that's not what and then think about that, because if the government can commit bigamy, then why wasn't Charles allowed to have his wife and his girlfriend at the same time? He had to get all divorced, and that led to Diana's death. If he could have just had both, we might still have Princess Diana and Camilla, which would be a formidable force, wouldn't they? And William and Harry would still have their mum if she wasn't recklessly driven off to that other extremist religion and crashed in that tunnel. It's just a fucking horrible story. Yeah? And it's like he didn't have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of wives, and he wasn't terrorising everyone into thinking that their husband's trying to kill them. Yeah? He just wanted, he had Diana, who was his mother, and then he had this more kind of, she was a bit of a wild child, a bit like my mum, and he had this Camilla who he needed to, for all the solid king stuff he had to do. He needed a solid queen. I think Diana knew that she couldn't be the queen, and that led her straight into the arms of a man that killed her. Really? Diana wasn't driving, I don't think, and the paparazzi followed them the whole bloody way. As they do, don't they? They just hounded her until she died. And they would have hounded them both if they had have come up with some type of dual partnership strategy, wouldn't they have? And all the people would have said how naughty it was, yet they turn their back completely and ignore it when our government's doing far worse every day. Mortal man, listen to what I tell you. Don't be rebellious like them. Open your mouth and eat what I'm going to give you. I saw a hand reaching out towards me, and it was holding a scroll. The hand unrolled the scroll, and I saw that there was writing on both sides. Cries of grief were written there, and wails and groans. God said, mortal man, eat this scroll, then go and speak to the people of Israel. And that's like, Israel needs a bit of a speaking to as well, because they're killing too many people. And I think I laid out yesterday exactly what needs to happen for that to stop. And it's that the Irish people need to stop supporting terrorists and stop being terrorists in all the regions that Irish people are. You're not allowed to just spread out like fucking Leonardo DiCaprio and jump into other women's or men's beds and try and steal all their shit. Yeah, because there won't be room on the fucking door for yous if you continue with that. You've got to fess up to the fact that yous are all alcoholic fucking no-hopers, and this fucking rebellious fucking Ned Kelly shit, although very cool, yeah, has got to end at this scale, because you're hardly the most dispossessed people in the world any longer, are you, Irish people, Ireland, hey? Yeah, you just had your president, the president of the United States was just of Irish descent. So I think you all need to stop playing the victim, yeah, and get your fucking hat off and stop trying to kill everyone. Because it was cool when it was Ned Kelly, when he's out there with his brothers voting thing, but it's not cool when you've got the internet and billions of dollars and you're living in hospitals and hiding in hospitals across the world and doing the evil deeds that terrorists always end up doing. It's not cool, yeah? It's not cool, it's not fucking it's nothing. Although, in the case of my children's mother, her being a woman and her being on foreign soil and feeling all that pressure, some of it enacted by my very own mother. And she was displaying her superiority, white supremacist, discriminatory thing against the Irish person of my mother. And that's just crazy because her grandbabies are Irish and her dad was Irish. So it's just silly. You can see that women being superior and thinking that they're better than other women and all this bitchy stuff leads to all this shit where the government tries to marry you all. Yeah? And the government, he's the most controlling, coercive boyfriend you could ever have. Yeah, he wouldn't even let me share a photo of my family because they're like, my family now, can't go to jail. And to be a girl, especially a girl in regional areas, and being bashed up by the government while they tries to steal your wife, where are we exactly? Are we in some cave in Afghanistan? Or are we in Australia where everyone is supposed to be treated equally and bigamy is entirely against the law? And I think we'd have to get to the definitions of what marriage exactly is, because marriage, the ideal of marriage, in all different languages, like say we have a large Indian population, I'm not even particularly sure whether the word for marriage in Indian is actually marriage. It's probably some Indian word, and the same applies to Africans and all the other types of nationalities that reside peacefully, also are supposed to reside peacefully in our country, if they weren't being fucking picked off by the government who just can't get enough pussy. I'm sorry. I get extremely worked up at this. You know what I mean? And the other day when there was a thing with my eye, and I said I walked into the door. I hadn't walked into the door. It was the government punched me in the eye. They sent sheriff. And do you know what the sheriff said? They said, we're the last line in defence. We're going to steal all your shit. And I was like, well, this is just fucking bullshit. This is just bullshit. You steal my children and then you send the sheriff of Nottingham, except it's not the sheriff of Nottingham. It's the sheriff of bloody bigamist fucking extremist fucking medical cult land, McGowan land, and you wouldn't even give me any McGowan bread, and McGowan's a fucking dickhead. I hate him anyway. I don't even like it. I get emotional. And I'm not like Ned Kelly. I can't fucking put on a helmet and stroll in there because I'll break a nail and I haven't got the confidence to do it. This is all I can do is use my voice on the internet, and I don't even know how to bloody do it anymore. I just fucking want to cry. I want to cry in the puddle. And if it wasn't for my girlfriend now, who's very strong, she's a very strong woman, and she's never married the government. And she actually left her partner because she was cheating on her and she's a little baby, and now she's looking after me as well. And I'm like, feel all dependent. I don't want to feel dependent. I'm an independent woman/man. And I'm not allowed to be independent because government keeps stealing my business, helping my fucking terrorist ex-girlfriend destroy our business. It was our business together, and it was the children's business by law. It was written into law as that. And so I don't understand why the government's so controlling and coercive. And this is why bigamy's illegal. I'm not allowed to have 7 wives going out there and inflicting damage across the land, and that's why bigamy's illegal. And so neither's the government. The government's not allowed to be fucking married to every fucking hussy that's been filled full of cum on a fucking weekend on the fucking nongs, on the nangs, on the knick-knack paddywhacks, and fucking in the back of a fucking Sandman getting fucking squirted full of thing, and either David Christofoli's going to come and blow its brains out, or the government's going to try and marry it as soon as it comes out. It's a boy, you're married to the government, bang! Or should we dispatch it now? Bang! I don't know. Fucking, this is just crazy. It's just crazy talk. It's all fucking crazy talk. This is why we need to maintain a monarchy. If it wasn't for Charles, we'd all be living in fucking some Sikh's fucking palace, you know, parading around like Alexander the Great, where all our daughters are just fucking paraded in front of Albo, displayed to him. You know what I mean? Just wheeled out, and his Albo's sitting there like Jabba the Hutt, fucking just salivating on the fucking daughters of fucking Australia. Timey kangaroo down, sport, timey kangaroo down. Timey kangaroo down, sport, timey kangaroo down. Do you know what's funny? I drove through this place here when I was delivering mirrors for my business. And there's a place called Rowan something or other. I don't know whether it says it in this book. Where they were. Yeah. Just fucking Australian history, eh? Just got a fucking update. Just got a refresher course. Just got some new mythology, I reckon, implanted into it as we free ourselves from this socialist, bigamist, extremist medical cult. And you know who's to blame? And listen, I'm going to go serious, and I'm going to speak in my own voice. You know I'm serious when I speak in my own voice. Do you know who's to blame really about this? It's people like me. They're right. I am to blame. Individuals like Anthony Albanese and, say, Roger Cook obviously didn't get any pussy in high school. That's why they felt the need to polygamise our nation and to steal our women and try and marry them. To not to appease some type of sinful quest for power, but to retaliate against individuals like myself that probably would have given them a hard time in high school for not getting any pussy. And that's on me. And what I've found by discovering my inner pussy is that was silly all along. A man is not a man because of how much pussy he can pull. Yeah, a man is a man for what he does during difficult times. And so this childish high school discrimination against individuals that weren't as successful in that quest for women has led to this. And on that, I, as the face and the voice for a cohort of individuals that did all right with the ladies in high school, I apologise to the Australian people for not being a better man in my younger years, and not grabbing guys like Albo and taking them out on the town and giving them the red hot go that they should have been, and then also to explain to the ladies exactly how good, say, like Albo would have been back then. And then a bit like Hitler, if Hitler's had to sold his paintings, if I had to take an Albo on the town and got him laid. Little side note as well to the women of the country, if you don't give Albo a hand job when he's a teenager, he turns into a tyrannical, polygamist, socialist dictator. And the whole Labor Party is really a cohort of dispossessed individuals that didn't get enough hand jobs as teenagers, because yous are all competing over the bad boy dickhead, which wasn't me either. I was a good boy. I wasn't the bad boy fucking thing with bitches hanging off me. Yeah, I did get a disproportionate amount of attention from women, but I was actually quite shy and scared of women, and so I didn't capitalise on every little floozy that tried to. And I really think, and look, not out of pity, out of commitment to the inner Chad that lives inside Albo, the inner Chris Hemsworth that lives inside Albo. Because if that inner Chris Hemsworth that lives inside Albo is not recognised in his teen years, it will elevate him with a desire, as we've seen with Bill Gates and as we've seen with Elon Musk. These figures, unbestowed with physical attributes that women crave, do possess the potential for greatness, and they do also possess the potential for absolute destruction. And it really does land as a responsibility of the women of Australia in their hands, firmly in their hands. It should be displayed on the faces of all women, the shame that they have not appreciated these men, and they should go out immediately and make amends and find the little Albaneses before they get to that extreme level. But it's probably too late for Albo. It's probably too late for Roger Cook. It's probably too late for McGowan. It's probably too late for this cohort of ignored men. But it's not too late for the next generation. And equal rights, equal opportunity for men in the attention of women will put a big end to this. You know what I mean? These men cannot be getting raised just digitally, relieving themselves. Because it leads them to dissociate from polite society and perpetuate this kind of digital concentration camp reality on all of us. And it might only take one hand job to stop a young man from turning into Albo in the future. And you've got two hands, you've got a mouth to use your voice and give him the affirmation, give the young Albos the affirmation that was required to gently shift their direction away from a dystopian digital fucking nightmare into a harmonious and fulfilled life of public service. So another history lesson down, another exploration into what actually causes these things, cause and effect, and just another bit of story time in the morning. Now, I don't suggest that you really share this with children, because it's not about children. It's about adults. It's about adults behaving badly all across the nation. And so, unlike some of the left-leaning, cross-dressing folk, you'll notice that all my YouTube videos are adults only. And that's because children haven't fucked anything up yet, and so they don't need to learn any of these lessons. And they sure as hell don't need a bloke in a fucking dress waving his dick in their face. So, yeah, we'll find solace today. And I'm going to do one more Bible reading, because I think that what the Bible does do is it stamps a bit of authority, this book has been protected for thousands of years by countless religions, and so it gives a bit of legitimacy to an argument that could be a little bit absurd unless legitimised by its connection to the Bible. And this is why, like, say I had my hand on the Bible like this, which is what I'd be expected to do in a court of law. This is why this is the model used by. It doesn't always have to be the Bible, it has to be your book of choice, but put your hand and swear an oath on the Bible is the foundational concept that has kept our country on the right track for a long time, until this recent straying from the Bible by the very government itself. And it's lucky that our structure is nimble and well prepared to deal with such a large threat. And so the actual adjustment will be quite harmonious and non-chaotic once we address the original the thing, which is a blind spot. And it's a blind spot because women did deserve more of a voice and more equality. And with the fervour to encourage that in people, it's led to a kind of no-go zone against women. And it's not against women. You'll find it is men. It's men being polygamous. The majority of people in the government that did this polygamy are men. And the women are kind of trapped by a patriarchy, patriarchal structure in there. Then they have to kind of just sit idly by and watch the government gobble up thousands and thousands of women to appease their retaliatory urge and their very, very low-level masculine concept that the more women you have, the more powerful you are. So the more I go on with this, the less I'm attracted to women. And so I hope that once this is all restored, that my attraction levels to women will go up again. Because at the moment, day by day, I'm getting less and less attracted to women. Even Marilyn, who I can see poking her head from behind the TV cabinet there, even the magnificent Marilyn Monroe is becoming less and less attractive by the day as women across the nation sit on their hands and fail to act on this very dark ages approach of polygamy across our nation. So after the festival ended, all the people of Israel went to every city in Judah and broke the stone pillars, cut down the symbols of the goddess Asherah, and destroyed the altars and the pagan places of worship. They did the same thing throughout the rest of Judah and the territories of Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh. Then they all returned home. So yeah, just religion. It's amazing what it can bring you. If you're going to get married, you're only allowed to have one wife. And don't forget to give a little bit of attention to to all men equally, right? And don't, you know what I mean? You can't all have Hemsy. And Hemsy, I've heard through the grapevine, is a poof anyway. He's a raging fucking poofter. His fucking girlfriend there, his wife or whatever, is just a fucking statue that he pops up in front of everyone to appease the masses of hungry women that all think they've got a shot with Hemsy, but he wouldn't look at you if you were fucking the queen of fucking Sheba, because he loves fucking dick. All right? He loves cock. And I'm sorry that the God of Thunder himself is a fucking faggot, but somebody had to say something, okay? somebody had to say something about it. Because parading faggots around to appease the fucking hungry hippos that are all married to the government is a little bit like, it's just not on, right? It's not a strategy for stable growth, to have all the women married to the government and pining over a poofter. The stable for the foundation for a healthy country is to stand behind good marriages and good families, and that institution is something that you should take extremely seriously before entering into the nuptial agreement in law or under the eyes of God. So if you can't keep up to those vows, don't do it. But that should not prevent you from being a parent to your children, right? It's parenting and marriage is two different things. It's not the same thing. And de facto esque relationships is not marriage according to the law. And this kind of common law assumption, most of it being assumption, and mostly perpetuated by women looking out the back door with Albo fucking dangling his fucking keys and sticking him in your bowl all the time. That is not the ideal to which those laws were supposed to be being used in. Yes, it's a bit massive mistreatment of justice and of our legal system, of our political system, and of our societal structures. And it has only led to the infiltration of online pornography and child abuse and poor economic management in families, alcoholism, drug abuse, just all the nasty things, which is what marriage is there to protect women from that. If you marry a man, his job is to protect you from the naughty world that you've maybe escaped into marriage. And this can apply with men or women. Like myself, if I can say I considered marrying my new girlfriend, I find myself in a very feminine position of escaping abuse and escaping mistreatment and escaping ostracism and discrimination and abuse, like Cinderella. And so I find sanctuary in her loving arms, and these are all the things that we need to discuss if we're going to talk about equality. And we just cannot talk about equality when we have a bigamist, polygamist government in charge and not owning up, not even acknowledging. Yes, like a battered woman, I thrust my voice, and if I had a fucking bra, I would burn it, but maybe I should burn my work boots, to send a satisfactory message to the state of my birth and the state that those work boots built, that I will take no more of this and my boots will be burnt on the lawns of Parliament. And I think many men/women across the nation will burn their bras and their boots too until this polygamy ends. Yeah. So yeah, that's enough of that for today, and I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all tomorrow.